Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world, talking about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, two of the five big things that needs to happen this offseason have happened. We hired a GM in John Spytek. We hired a head coach in Pete Carroll. Third on that list is we need to get a coaching staff. Coaching staff is just supremely important, man. Not only does it help in the second D of draft and development, which is the development side, but they're able to backfill a lot of positions should some of the top assistants on your staff be poached by other teams. Super important, man. It's an incredibly important thing to be able to rely on your coaching staff to be able to implement the things that you want implemented and to be able to teach and improve on these players and really get them up to speed, really keep them on board. Because make no mistake, if a player's happy with their development and they're happy with their money, they're going to be happy playing for you, even if you're not winning. But I do suspect that we'll be doing a lot more winning with the combo of Brady at the top, right underneath him, Spytek, and then Pete Carroll as head coach. So let's take a look at some candidates for offensive and defensive coordinator. Offensive side first. First one we need to take a look at is Darrell Bevell. Darrell Bevell, he was the offensive coordinator in Seattle from 2011 to 2017. Also was the offensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl. The best version of that Seattle team offensively was when Darrell Bevell was there. When it was about running the football, play action, taking deep shots, that was the recipe for success. We started getting into the whole let Russ cook thing. That's when it started to kind of fall off. But the most consistent double-digit 11, 12-win teams was Darrell Bevell as the offensive coordinator. How's it going to happen? How's it going to work out? Because Pete Carroll had to let him go. I don't know, man. I think Pete Carroll has a lot of good fortune built up with a lot of people. They can move past that. But that's one candidate is Darrell Bevell. The next one has some experience with Pete Carroll is Shane Waldron. He was the coordinator in Seattle 21, 22, and 23. Waldron is not my top choice. He's probably one of my last choices just because he was like the main guy in the whole let Russ cook movement the last few seasons with Russell Wilson with Seattle. Disastrous 2024 in Chicago. He lasted the same amount of time as Getsy, I think, like 9 games. Bruh, no. I just don't think Shane Waldron is the guy. I think that although the offense was okay, I don't think it's the offense that we need right now with the Raiders. I think we need to have a more run-focused play action, take deep shots on the outside off of play action, let Bowers work over the middle type of thing, not the whole, spread everyone out and do shotgun on the goal line. This is not for us. That's Shane Waldron's business right there. All right, next name we want to take a look at is Pete Carroll's son's going to be on here multiple times, but Brendan Carroll is he was an assistant under Pete Carroll with Seattle for a few years, but he's currently the offensive coordinator at the University of Washington. So I understand what you guys are thinking. Oh, it's Pete Carroll's kid and nepotism, this and that. Yeah. I get that if he wasn't an actual legit offensive coordinator, which he is at the University of Washington. He was also the offensive coordinator at the University of Arizona in 21, 22, and 23. He worked for Pete Carroll. He worked for his dad from 15 to 2020. So it's not like he's not used to the NFL. It's not like he's not used to calling plays. I'm not saying he's the best option for offensive coordinator, but he's an option out there. He's definitely an option for, let's say, an offensive assistant, passing game coordinator, something like that. Definitely something that you can look at to build and get more experience under his dad as head coach. The next name on the list is another son, Nate Carroll. Now, Nate Carroll doesn't have quite the experience that Brennan does, but he's a current passing game coordinator with the Panthers, the same passing game that got much better towards the end of the season under Dave Canales with Bryce Young with the Panthers. Could he fill the same role? Could it be an offensive assistant, something like that? Possibly. I really do think that Pete Carroll wants to use this opportunity to give his sons more seasoning and more experience under him at head coach to be able to kind of bolster their resume in the NFL. Next name on the list is one that you might remember, and one that both Brady and Spytek have a lot of familiarity with. It's Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich was the offensive coordinator in Tampa in 2020 when the Tampa Bay Bucks won the Super Bowl. So what we need to take a look at is the fact that Tom Brady felt comfortable enough with Byron Leftwich to discuss what was happening with the offense. Now, the offense in the beginning of the year was more of a Bruce Arians type of offense. Tom Brady wasn't used to that. He was used to something a little bit different, a little bit more, pro set based, a little bit more like a 3 wide, single back, play action, short, quick passes, stuff like that. That's what he was used to. Bruce Arians is a more like spread them out, throw a deep type of guy. Byron Leftwich was able to kind of switch and adjust a lot of the play calls and some of the terminology as well to be a lot more used to what Brady is used to on the fly and call a game for a Super Bowl winning team. He hasn't coached in a couple of years. I don't know exactly why he hasn't coached in a couple of years. Maybe he's just holding out for a head coaching position, didn't want to go backwards, didn't want to go to college. But he's a guy that's available out there. He does have the trust of both Brady and Spytek because of their time in Tampa. All right, next name that's kind of familiar to us is one that I think is a sleeper pick. That thing would be really good because even though he may not have been a great head coach, he was an excellent offensive coordinator, which is Frank Reich. Frank Reich was an OC in Indy. I'm sorry, with the Chargers for a few years, and then in Philadelphia for a couple of years. And when they won a Super Bowl, honestly, Frank Reich, I think would be a really good choice. The main reason being is I wouldn't put his failures as head coach like in Indy or Houston as a black mark against him as an OC. It's a completely different thing. As an OC, he was strong. And I think that he has the experience not only in play calling, but in constructing an offense, but also in play calling in big games. Frank Reich could be a really good sleeper pick, and he's already washed out a couple of times as head coach. Who knows if he's going to get a third chance to be a head coach? He may be a very experienced offensive coordinator that you could pick and you can have on your team for quite some time. All right, the next 3 guys have not been offensive coordinators before, but they're really strong candidates because of how good of coaches they are and some other variables. The first one, Ronald Curry. Now, Ronald Curry is the current quarterback coach with the Bills. Doing a great job over there. Again, he's still playing, so we can't hire him yet, but he's a big name out there. He can definitely be at least an offensive assistant, but I like him as a quarterback coach, maybe even to progress into that offensive coordinator in a few years. But Ronald Curry's a great guy, smart guy, doing a great job over there in Buffalo. The next one is Josh McCown. Josh McCown, a former Raiders quarterback. He was a coach when he was a player, man. Everyone loved him. He was a smart guy. Everyone knew he was going to be a coach when he got older. He's the current quarterback coach in Minnesota. Guy's doing a great job. He did wonders with Sam Darnold out there. I think he could be a guy that can come in here and command a lot of respect for just the way he played, the way he coaches, and how everyone has great things to say about Josh McCown. The last one on the list may not be a well-known name, but this dude is a rising stud. Keep an ear out for this name of Nick Caley. Nick Caley is the current tight ends coach with the Rams. Great. Whoa, a tight end coach is going to be an offensive coordinator? Yeah, smart guy. He's also the passing game coordinator for the Rams. All right. So these guys, these offensive assistants, these quarterback coaches, offensive passing game coordinators under Sean McVay, they go off to other places and they flourish, man. You have LaFleur out there. You have O'Connell out there. Recently now you have Cohen, who was an offensive assistant under McVay. Nick Caley is the next in line to be the shooting star as far as offensive coaches go. All right, defensive coordinator candidates. First, we have Gus Bradley. I'm saying Gus Bradley because I'm kind of just going to dismiss him outright. Yes, he was an offensive coordinator for quite some time with Seattle, a couple of seasons, 10, 11, and 12. He was kind of the architect in the beginning seasons of that Legion of Boom. He was the defensive coordinator with the Raiders in 2021. He's had a really bad 3 years since 22, 23, 24 in Indy. They have not been good defenses over there. I think that his style of defense is a little antiquated for just how multiple and how dynamic a lot of these offenses are in the league. I think his defense is a little bit slower. I name him first because he is a candidate. He used to work for Pete Carroll in the past, but I say him first to dismiss him. I don't think it's going to be Gus Bradley. The next one on the list is a guy who also has worked with Pete Carroll, but I think he's a very much stronger candidate, and that's Chris Richard. Chris Richard was a player in the NFL, but also he coached under Pete Carroll at USC. He was at USC in 2008, 9, something like that. Also followed Pete into the pros with Seattle from 2010 to 2017. He was also the defensive coordinator in 15, 16, and 17 with the Seattle Seahawks. So he has experience being a defensive coordinator. He has experience being a defensive coordinator under Pete Carroll, another rising name in the defensive ranks of coaches in the NFL. Next one we talk about is Nick Sorensen. Now, Nick Sorensen, dude's a really good coach. He was an assistant coach, defensive coach in Seattle for like 8 years, from like 2013 to 2020. And so Pete Carroll knows him well. He's an excellent defensive coach. Another name that Pete Carroll is familiar with, that he trusts, that he knows is a good coach, and who can really put a stamp on a defense. I think he did a really good job with Seattle the first time around. All right, this next one is another Pete Carroll guy, and a guy that's another rising star. Carl Scott. Keep your ear out for Carl Scott. Carl Scott was the DB coach for Pete Carroll in like 20, 21, 22, 23, around there. Excellent coach. If you take a listen, or if you kind of close your eyes and you picture a Pete Carroll defense, they're going to have excellent secondary. And that's where Carl Scott coached. I think Carl Scott would be an excellent choice. A first-time defensive coordinator under a defensive-minded coach, I think is a good way to go, because you get a young guy who has something to prove and who's innovative and who focuses on the defensive backs, which I think is an area that we need really a lot of help in. So it's a good keep that name under your hat. It's Carl Scott. Next on the list is Casey Rogers. Now, he was just hired as a defensive line coach with Detroit, but it doesn't matter. If we give him a DC, he'll move. Big thing about him is Casey Rogers was the Tampa Bay defensive line coach for 6 years, from 2019 to 2024. He was also with the Jets as the defensive coordinator from 2015 to 2018. There's a lot of things going wrong with the Jets, but it wasn't the defense. Defense was strong. So Casey Rogers, I think, is a name you need to look out for as well. Maybe not. Look, are all these guys going to be defensive coordinator for the Raiders? No. But you can see a lot of these guys sprinkled across this coaching staff because they know that Pete Carroll knows how to develop not only players, but develop coaches as well. Next on the list is kind of a far-fetched. It's Wink Martindale. You might know Wink Martindale from his time with the Ravens as defensive coordinator. He was there for quite some time. But also he was a DC in Denver. He was a linebacker coach for the Raiders a while back. Wink Martindale is definitely a high-caliber NFL defensive coordinator. When you think of the Baltimore Ravens during his time, which was 2018, 2021, yeah, man, this dude is legit. Next on the list are a couple of former Raiders, or current Raiders, I guess you can call them. Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham has been the defensive coordinator since 2024. His contract has just expired. Poor Patrick Graham, man. He got done dirty this year. He was made to believe that he was in the serious running for the head coaching job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because of that, he didn't take the defensive coordinator job with the Bengals. There was a couple other defensive coordinator jobs out there that were open that he kind of passed on because he wanted to be a head coach. And those positions have already been filled, which is a shame because I think Patrick Graham is an excellent coach. And I think he will be a head coach in the league one day. But I just think he's getting screwed around a little bit. The whole Liam Cohen thing was kind of funky with the Jags. It was just a weird situation over there. And because of that, he missed out on a couple of opportunities. Pete Carroll is going to assemble an excellent defense. That's just what he does. It's not a matter of can he do it again. He's done it multiple times. He's going to let you run your defense, and he's going to help you, and he's going to help develop you as a coach as well. Being a coordinator under Pete Carroll is a shot to being a head coach eventually in your tenure as a coach in the NFL. And a lot of these guys are the guys that Graham has picked and developed himself. So I think it would be a good opportunity for Patrick Graham to come back and learn under a new head coach and get his name up a little bit higher in the head coaching ranks come next offseason. All right, the last name on this list is Rob Leonard. Rob Leonard is the current defensive line coach. He's respected by everybody, especially Max Crosby. Everybody loves Coach Leonard. Well, like, he's a dark horse, but like I said, kind of with like a Chris Richard or like a Carl Scott, if you want to put a first-time defensive coordinator under a head coach, Pete Carroll is an excellent coach to do it under because he's going to let you do your thing. He's going to help you along the way, and he knows how to develop coaches. All right, guys, those are a lot of names on the list. Let me know which ones are your favorites for offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and maybe other positions as well. Offensive line coach, maybe Tom Cable. He was offensive line coach with Seattle in the past, also has former Raider ties. Let me know what you guys think, man. There's a lot of really important decisions to come up here. 2 big ones down. There's 3 big ones to go. The next one up on the list is who are going to be the coaches, all right? Everyone, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to your socials. It's the absolute bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely anything. Until next time, everybody. Peace. Hey, Raider Nation. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more where that came from. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe and share to all your socials. It's the bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely nothing.